if you're anything like me, you've likely faced some kind of burnout from just being in Zoom meetings all day or having way too many Slack notifications. And the reality is that communicating in a remote team, it doesn't have to be that way. There is a way to communicate remotely that feels calm, collected, and not frenetic and all over the place. And in today's class, I'm going to show you exactly how. So how then exactly do you run a remote team meeting well, especially when all of us are so overwhelmed and fatigued by remote meetings so much of the time? Well, there are a few tactics that are really useful. First and foremost, you'll want to kick off with some kind of icebreaker. In a brainstorming meeting in particular, this can be massively useful for getting ideas flowing and people to open up. There was a study that was in fact recently done that showed that when an icebreaker was asked in the beginning of the meeting, 26% more interesting, creative ideas were generated. So if you have a fun question to kick things off, especially think about it, in a team building meeting, you can only imagine how much more energetic and engaged folks are going to be. Another tactic around running a remote meeting well is to give some kind of pre-work ahead of time to help team members feel prepared coming into that remote meeting and to make that remote meeting so much more efficient. Of course, yes, you may set an agenda and set it ahead of time, but what if you also gave a template where you provided different points and outlines of pieces you wanted people to think about before you went into the actual meeting to talk about the decision? Or you pose questions that you want folks to think about and consider before they come to that remote meeting. Being able to help support your team to be most prepared before the meeting helps you and your team get the most out of the meeting itself. So definitely try giving some kind of pre-work. A third tactic is to make sure that you're really conscious of your own body language. So much of our facial expressions and body cues really give off communication and send some kind of message to the rest of our team. And if we're in a remote video meeting, that's going to speak volumes. In fact, there were two famous studies that were done in 1967 that showed how 55% of any kind of communication that we receive as humans is actually our body language. So the more cognizant we are of, hey, are we looking at our actual camera screen on the computer? Are we smiling or seeming really focused or distracted when talking to our peers? That's going to really determine how engaging that remote meeting is going to be for your team. And then lastly, consider recording your meetings, and so it gives team members an option to not have to attend every single meeting here and there. So much of us feel completely overwhelmed by having so many remote meetings, and so you can really lessen this burden by giving your team members an option to maybe watch the meeting later, or be able to fast forward to different parts that are most relevant to them instead of completely cramming their calendar with so many meetings back to back. Now, these are just some best practices for running remote meetings well, but keep in mind that the most important thing is that you're finding different ways to make them a little more efficient, take the burden and pressure off your teammates a little bit, and maybe not even hold them at all to begin with.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our latest videos.